So let's take a look at our first bug. The size of Google Map is too big. Since there is only one page that contains a Google Map, we know this is on the Show Event page. So let's check that page. So the problem here is that Google Map is larger than its container. This clearly is a bug, but what caused it? If you look at the size of this, it's 425 by 350, where it should be 298 by 320 according to our design. And if you go to Google Maps, the default size is 425 by 350, so most likely whoever was entering this map didn't change it to the correct size. And yes, the person who is entering the data should really check before they entered, but as the developer, you shouldn't really depend on it. Think about it. If you have 100 records to enter, can you expect the person to type in the correct size manually every time they enter this field? In a project like this, everyone works as a team, so if you can fix it in code, then do it. The first thing you want to do is enter it in FogBugz. I already have something entered here when the client reported the issue, but now that we know it's a bug, let's change it to a bug. Let's also save a screenshot as a reference. Let's add another two subcases. One is to solve the actual bug, the other is for research. Now go to the research task and start the timer. It asks us for a time here, so let's put 20 minutes. Let's see what we actually got from Google. Let's copy the string and paste it here. So this is what we got from Google. And actually, this is very simple. All we need is to parse the width and height attribute out of the markup Google Maps provided and replace it with the values we want, and we're done. But wait, string parsing is very frustrating, and we don't want to write code to do that. So as always, we use a library for this. Since we already know how CSS selector works in jQuery, we can use that to parse HTML as well. We just had to find a .NET version of it. And the library we are going to use is called Fizzler. So once you download it, you copy them and drop everything in the lib folder as always. And you're ready to test this. Remember, always test your library before using it. It might not be what you want or expect. If you can get it to work the way you want, don't sweat it. Just use another library. Now let's take a look at what we need to do here. If you look at the markup, there are three things that we need to do here. First, we need to parse the iframe part because we don't want this small tag. The small tag, by the way, is completely separate from the iframe. And then we need to change the height and width. And finally, we turn this whole thing to a string. So as always, we need to create a unit test for this. Let's go ahead and create a unit test. And as you can see, ReSharper is doing a lot for me here. Before we begin, there's a few DLLs that we have to add. And remember what I said before. We reference only the DLLs we need. But this time, I can tell you that it's these three DLLs. Reference them, and also reference them in the UI project, and we are ready to go. If you look at the official website, most of it is here for you already. Now I will just copy this. And this again, Visual Studio is complaining, but just let ReSharper handle it. Replace this with our Google Map markup, and now you see Visual Studio is complaining. The problem here is all these double quotes inside the string needs to be escaped, but that's easy. We just need to use find and replace. And there, it's done. Now set this to an iframe. And we see here that it returns a collection. We want only one iframe, so let's see if we have any other options here. Looks like there is a version that queries a single node, so let's use that. And we should be able to get our iframe. So next, we want to set the width and height attribute. Now, you can spend the time to read the documentations, or you can just type attribute and see what ReSharper gives us. There is this set attribute value that looks promising, so let's try that and go ahead and set the height and widths. And finally, we need to turn this into a string after it's done. This is not so straightforward, but after some digging in the source code, we found out that it is the write-to method. Remember, this is the key benefits of using open-sourced projects, so we can always go to the source and find what we need. And finally, we assert it. Let's run the test. Yes, it passed. So now we are ready to solve our bug.